He had been gone for 4 months when I heard his voice inside my head telling me to open a box. Not a memory of his voice, not the way grief replays someone's laugh or the way they said your name. This was different, present, clear, and specific. It said, "Open the journals." I need you to understand something before I tell you the rest of this story. I am not someone who hears voices. I have never in my life claimed to receive messages from anywhere. I am the kind of person who reads the instruction manual before assembling furniture. I was a bookkeeper for 31 years. Not a poet, not a mystic. I kept records. I balanced accounts. And when my companion of 18 years collapsed in the kitchen one afternoon without warning, the only thing I knew for certain was that the account we had been building together, 18 years of mornings and arguments and reconciliations and shared silences, had just been closed. Permanently. With no notice. The doctors use the word massive, as in, the event was so complete, so total, that there was nothing to intervene against. He was there, and then he wasn't. What they don't tell you about sudden death, what no one prepares you for, is that grief doesn't just live in the big moments. It lives in the ordinary ones. The cup he left in the wrong side of the cabinet. The way the bedroom door stopped making that sound because he isn't there anymore to close it at night. The pile of notebooks on his desk that I walked past every single day for 4 months without touching, because touching them felt like the last wall coming down. He kept journals, handwritten ones, spiral notebooks, hardcover ones, the cheap kind from the supermarket. He filled them the way some people fill crossword puzzles. Constantly, quietly, without making a production of it. And in his last few years, he had moved some of that writing to a digital archive, files on his computer that I never asked to read because they were his. And that kind of privacy was something we gave each other freely. I didn't know his password. I had never needed it. And then, 4 months after the kitchen floor, I heard his voice. The journals were in a brown cardboard box in the bottom of the closet. I hadn't moved them. I hadn't been able to. Walking into that closet for a pair of shoes was already an exercise in controlled breathing. The smell of him still lived in the fabric of things. And sometimes I would stand there with my hand on a shirt sleeve and just breathe until I could move again. The voice said, "Open the journals." So I did. I sat down on the floor of the bedroom. Not in a chair, on the floor, because my legs simply stopped cooperating. And I opened the box. There were 11 notebooks. I didn't count them intentionally. I counted them the way you count things when you're stalling, when you're not quite ready for what comes next. I picked one at random, not the first one, not the last one. One from somewhere in the middle. A blue hardcover with a crease on the spine from being opened flat too many times. And on the first page I turned to, not the first page of the book, but the first page that fell open, the way a loved book falls open to the passage it knows you need. There were 3 words written in capital letters. The way he wrote things he considered important. Above those 3 words, in his handwriting, was a note that said, "Call me if you need to." Those 3 words were his digital archive password. I sat on that floor for a long time. Long enough that the light in the room changed. And the only thing I could think was, he knew. Not that he was going to die. I don't believe any of us are given that kind of certainty. But he knew, in the way that people who love carefully sometimes know, that he wanted to leave a door open, that there were things he had written that I might one day need to read. And so he left the key in the most logical place in the world, somewhere I would only look if I was truly searching. I want to stop here and tell you something before I go any further, because what happened next, what I experienced 3 nights later, is the thing I actually need to tell you. And I'm not sure I have the right words for it yet. But I'm going to try. The digital files were organized the way he organized everything, by year, and within each year, by what he called weight. A folder labeled light, daily observations, things that made him laugh, weather. A folder labeled heavy, the things he processed slowly, the things he returned to. And one folder at the very bottom of the archive with no label at all. Inside it was a single document, titled with my name. I'm not going to tell you what it said, not because I want to protect myself, though I do, but because what he wrote was for me. And some things lose something essential when they're shared before they're ready. What I will tell you is that he had written it across several years, adding to it the way you add to a garden, slowly, without urgency, trusting that it would grow. And in it, he had described things about our life together that I had forgotten I remembered. Small things, exact things. The kind of details that you only notice if you are paying very close attention to a person, every single day for a very long time. He had been paying attention. The night I finished reading it, I went to bed and I slept for the first time in 4 months without lying awake in the dark. And in that sleep, something happened that I am still trying to find the language for. I don't know if it was a dream. I want to be honest about that. I am not the kind of person who makes claims I can't verify, but I also know, with the same precision that kept 31 years of accounts balanced, that what I experienced was not produced by my own mind. The detail was too specific. The clarity was too total, and it carried, when I woke from it, a residue of certainty that has not faded in the months since. If anything, it has grown more solid. What I can say is this. There was a moment, somewhere in that sleep, when the darkness behind my eyelids simply opened, not gradually. The way a door opens when someone on the other side finally has the key. And what was on the other side was... I keep reaching for the word and finding it inadequate. Whole. Everything on this side of life feels partial, unfinished, like reading a manuscript with the last chapter missing. What I saw on the other side was the finished version, not a place, a moment, a specific, enormous, irrevocable moment that I understood, without being told, had not yet happened. I was being shown a window into what is still to come. The first thing I noticed was the light. Not because it was bright, though it was, but because it had texture. Light here, even on the best days, is just the absence of darkness. That light was a presence. It had weight and warmth and something that I can only describe as intention, as if it knew exactly where to land, as if every shadow it touched dissolved, not by force, but by welcome. The earth itself had been remade. I understood that immediately, the way you understand the rules of a room when you step into it, not from signs on the wall, but from the air itself. What I saw was not a place I had been. It was a place this world has always been trying to become. The air was the first thing that undid me. One breath of it, and I felt something leave my body that I had been carrying so long I had stopped noticing the weight. Not grief specifically, something older than grief. The accumulated bruising of a lifetime of small losses, small disappointments, small surrenders. All of it lifted away with that one breath, the way steam lifts from water on a cold morning. Gone. If someone you've lost came to mind just now, you're exactly who this channel was made for. Subscribe. There's more waiting for you here. And when you finish the video, check the pinned comment. I left something there for you. I saw a field, enormous, impossibly green, with a quality of color that suggested the grass was not reflecting light, but generating it from within. And through that field, people were moving, not walking purposefully from one place to another, moving the way people move when they have finally arrived somewhere after a very long journey. And the only thing left to do is be there. I saw older people whose faces I would have described as aged here, but there, they were standing in a kind of fullness that the word young doesn't quite capture. It wasn't that they looked younger, it was that they looked completed. Every line on their face was still there, but instead of marking loss, those lines marked everything they had survived and become, and they moved with a freedom I have never seen in a human body on this side. I saw a woman sitting in the grass with her arms full of a child she was clearly meeting for the first time, and yet holding with the certainty of someone who had known that child's name for years. There was no explaining that image. I simply knew. This was a reunion that had been interrupted before it could begin, and now it was being honored in full. And then, the animals. They came in from the edges of the field in waves, the way the tide comes in. Not a single creature, not a pair, but a living current of them. Dogs of every size and breed running flat out with that specific joy that only a dog in full sprint can express. Horses moving across the far end of the field, with their manes lifted by a wind that seemed to exist just for them. Birds of colors that have no names yet, landing on the arms and shoulders of the people there, as casually as snowflakes, as though being near a human being was their natural resting place. And the animals moved among the people, weaving between them, settling beside them, filling the whole scene with a kind of warmth that came from the ground up, from every direction at once. The laughter that came from people when those creatures reached them, I heard it land in my chest like something I had been waiting my entire life to hear. I want to be careful with what I say next, because I will not claim more than I was shown. What I understood, not from words, but from the whole texture of what I witnessed, is that everything created was included in this moment, not parceled out, not ranked, included. Every living thing that had ever mattered to anyone was woven into the fabric of what that morning was. And then, on the far side of the field, I saw him. I need to be precise about this because it is the part that is hardest to describe, and also the most important. I did not reach him. I was not in that place in the way you are in a room. The only word I have is witnessed. I was shown, and from the distance I was shown from, I could see him clearly. He was himself, recognizably, completely himself, but without the things that had worn at him. The back pain he carried for years, the anxiety he managed quietly and rarely discussed, the particular way his shoulders had started to carry weight in his last decade, a physical record of the things he couldn't set down. None of that. What remained was everything underneath it, the essential version of the person I had spent 18 years learning. And standing there watching him, I was struck by something that had nothing to do with him, and everything to do with me. I had spent 18 years with a person, really with him, present, paying attention. And the truth that broke over me in that vision was that I had still spent enormous portions of that time living in my own head, calculating, bracing for the next thing to go wrong, managing the future that hadn't happened yet, instead of fully inhabiting the present that was right there. He had been in the room, and I had been in my plans. And then I heard, not his voice, not a voice that belonged to any person I knew, but a question. Not accusatory, quiet, the kind of question that is asked by someone who already knows the answer and is offering you the dignity of saying it yourself. You knew how to keep records. Did you keep the right ones? That question rearranged something in me that has not gone back to its original position, because the right records, I understood in that moment, are not the ones you keep about accomplishments. They are the ones you keep about presence, about the moments you chose to show up with your whole attention rather than your divided one, about the times you set down what you were carrying and simply stayed. The years I have left are not a waiting room. They are the only place where those records can still be written. The vision didn't end with a hard edge. It was more like a conversation that gradually grows quieter. You're still in it, and then you realize you're not. And you can't identify the exact moment it changed. What I felt first coming back was weight. Not pain, weight. The physical reality of a body, a bed, a dark room, the specific sound of the refrigerator downstairs that I have been meaning to have looked at for 3 years. Everything ordinary and dense and present. I lay there in the dark for a long time without moving. Not because I was incapacitated, because I was trying to hold what I had seen without disturbing it. When I finally opened my eyes fully, it was still dark outside. I reached across to his side of the bed, something I had stopped doing after the first week because the empty space was too much, and I rested my hand flat on the mattress. Not as a gesture of longing, as a kind of witness to my own life. This is where I am. This is what is real. And what I was shown is also real. And those two things are not in conflict. I got up. I went downstairs. I made tea. And then I sat at his desk, the first time I had sat there since he died. And I opened one of the journals, not searching for anything, just reading, just keeping him company the way you sit with someone in a room without needing to say anything. Inside the back cover of that journal, I found something I had not expected. A list of his passwords. All of them. Written in his meticulous, careful handwriting, with the date updated each time he changed one. At the bottom of the list, in parentheses, in smaller letters, he had written, "In case you ever need to find me." He had known. Not the day, not the hour. I don't believe he knew that. But he knew, the way careful people know, that love has practical responsibilities as well as emotional ones. That the people we leave behind will need things we didn't think to mention out loud. That a door left open costs nothing and means everything. I want to speak directly to you now, especially if you are carrying a loss that sits in your chest like a stone you have learned to walk with. The person you lost is resting. Not diminished, resting. There is no suffering where they are. There is no awareness of absence. There is no loneliness, no confusion, no unresolved pain from whatever took them. The moment their eyes closed, everything that was tearing at them, disease, fear, the wearing down that this world does to bodies over time, all of it was over. Completely. Immediately. As if it had never been the whole story. Because it wasn't. What they are in right now is a rest so complete that it does not register as time passing. And when that rest ends, when the moment comes that I was shown a window into, they will open their eyes into a world that is everything this one was trying to be. They will breathe that air. They will stand in that light. They will be whole in a way this world never fully permitted. And the people who mattered to them will be there. I can't tell you that I understand every detail of what is coming. I was shown a window, not a manual. But what I was shown was enough to know this. The love you built with the person you lost was not wasted. It is not sitting in a box gathering dust. It is being kept. And on the other side of the rest, it will be the first thing recognized. The most important question I carry now, the one that changed after sitting on that floor with those journals, is not why did this happen? It is, How do I live in a way that prepares my heart for that morning? Not through formulas or labels or the correct set of practices. Through sincerity, through the honest, daily, imperfect work of trying to know the one who designed that field and that light and that moment of becoming whole. That search is not separate from grief. It walks right through the middle of it. And one more thing. The journals still teach me things. Not as messages from somewhere beyond, I won't overclaim, but as the record of a person who was paying attention, written down so that the one who came after him could also pay attention. That is what love does when it is practiced carefully. It leaves records. Tell me in the comments, whose face comes to you when you imagine that morning, the one you are holding on for? You didn't arrive here by accident. Subscribe, and every week there's another story that reminds you that hope is not a consolation prize. It's the most structurally sound thing we have. And check the pinned comment. I left something there for you.